Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this new Weather Station album, Ignorance. The Weather Station are a Toronto-based band headed by Miss Tamara Lindemann, who, I'll be perfectly honest, in the early days I totally wrote off as just another sort of folk revival act. But around the time of, The Line, I actually started to get really hip to their sound. Yes, it was rustic and warm when it needed to be, but at the same time it was incredibly raw and seriously beautiful. They also had a slight experimental side to them. And I have a lot of the same feelings on their follow-up. All of it was mine as well. Even if it was a little bit more straightforward and a little less experimental. But it was gorgeous nonetheless, and just made me feel so warm and cozy. Now, personally, I thought the What Am I Going to Do With Everything That I Know EP was a little bit of a disappointment, at least for me. It was a little run-of-the-mill. However, Loyalty was warm and gorgeous and a real return to form. And their last album, their self-titled album, was really nice as well. Now, these new singles have been the talk of the town. They are super likable and warm, but also thought-provoking. Been very excited to chat about this new one. Let's do it. This album starts off with Robber, and honestly, right off the bat, this is, I think, the best track here. This is a fantastic intro. It's just a really great song all around. Real strong mission statement for this entire album as well. Not only does this encompass everything about the Weather Station sound, the warm and rustic sound to their music, but it also does something very important, and that's usher in the incredibly sharp-witted lyrics that kind of show up throughout this entire album. It's a fascinating track that just sounds so fluid. It constantly sounds like it's changing. It's gorgeous and sweet, but it really packs a punch as well. Atlantic, on the other hand, is a little bit more upbeat, which, if it's your style, I certainly wouldn't blame you. This track is awesome. It's got a little oomph to it, even if there is nothing really too heavy here. But between these strings and warm woodwinds, the Weather Station just sound like they've truly arrived. Their music has such depth to it. Like I said, the Weather Station has been putting out some pretty solid material for years now, but this is completely a different story. Not only is it just so full of life, it's once again super thought-provoking. It's also very immediate. Like, I can't be not in a good mood listening to this. Tried to Tell You is probably the most, current sounding track here, if you want to call it that. But I will say this, the Weather Station has never felt more relatable and current. And some of the tales spun in these lyrics are just freaking deep. It has so much purpose to it. It's completely fearless. And Tamara Lindemann's vocals, I don't think they've ever sounded better. They are so sweet, so beautiful. This is just such an easy to take in album. Parking Lot is just as good. There is just such a lyrical beauty to this track, no matter how tragic it gets at times. I can't help but eat it up. It is this sort of gorgeous blend of art pop and chamber pop, but it's also got that rustic indie folk feel to it, as well as a real callback to the glory days of singer-songwriter music. Now, I will say this, I think Where is a real down point for me. Lyrically, this is in the same boat as the rest of the album. It is gorgeous and completely top-notch. But some of the vocals here are not my favorite. And this instrumental, just hearing just one gorgeously arranged, sweeping track after another, this is just a little bit of a letdown. We've gotten so far into this album by now that this just kind of seems tame, a little sluggish even. Lyrically, though, it is still a triumph, and I think you should listen to it, even if it's not my cup of tea. But Trust is my least favorite track here, and it's a shame because I feel like I was craving a piano ballad on this album. And it's certainly pretty from afar. But I think as far as sheer beauty goes from this album, I think this is a low point. And let me tell you, if Where dragged a little bit, this drags a lot. And it's a shame because, once again, lyrically, this is incredibly potent and needs to be heard. But outside of that, the Weather Station, in 2021, with this full band and these flooring instrumentals, man, this sound is a knockout. Loss is really great. I just can't help but get all caught up with how vast this is. I mean, go down the list. This awakens every cliche in the book inside of me. I just kind of want to collapse into a field and just drift away to this one. I mean, it's pretty tragic at times. It's a somber tune, but it's also just warm and cozy enough. Now, I will say this. This album is a little one note, but man, that one note is pretty nice most of the time. Separated is even warmer. I don't know, this one just scratches so many itches for me. I don't know, it almost reminds me of something I would have heard on the radio when I was young and just would have warmed my soul then. But take that and combine it with these incredibly sharp, thought-provoking lyrics, and it's a real 1-2 punch. And the finale of this album is pretty good too. We have Heart, for example. And let me tell you, following a string of some of the less impressive tracks here, this is a breath of fresh air. It is so smooth and has some of my favorite production on the album. It has a real old school flair to it. And Subdivisions, as a finale, is the piano ballad that I wanted to hear on this album. This is just so glorious and deep and just where I want to hear this album end off. It's so warm and just in every way just sums up so much of this album. And not for nothing, I don't think Tamara's vocals have sounded better than here. But outside of summing up a lot of the themes of this album, it just reminds me of what I loved about earlier tracks, so much so that it makes me want to go back and re-listen to it already. What a charming little record. I mean, I feel like the Weather Station, if they haven't already arrived, they certainly have now. They've been putting out stuff for years. It's been very solid, but this is their first truly great album. I feel like it is sharply written, it is well produced, and it is just such an easy record to drift away in. Now, I will say this, like I said earlier, it is a little bit one note at times, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, and honestly, I wish this album was a little bit longer, but I digress. I'm enjoying the hell out of this thing. Feeling a light 8 on this bad boy, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.